What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, and you tuned in to another edition of my vlog. Hopefully, by now, you subscribe to this channel so that way you can stay getting laced. You know, I'm all about the positivity and motivation. And today, I want to talk about the black guy, white guy game. You guys are probably asking me, what is the black guy, white guy game? Well, the black guy, white guy game is a lot of times when you're doing things and you're a black guy, people don't believe you because you're not the white guy. But when you're the white guy, people automatically assume that you have the answer. And this comes from a predisposition and the stereotypes that's been basically pushed out there about black people and knowledge. Where did the knowledge come from? Who's smarter? And a lot of people do it unconsciously. Blacks do it to blacks. Whites do it to blacks. Other races do it to blacks, but nonetheless, they all do it. They have a tendency to do it, and they make certain predetermined analysis of people that they have no clue about. And I'll break it all down to you. And in the instance that I actually experienced, and I don't really talk about prison here, but I'm gonna talk about a situation as far as what I dealt with while I was in prison, as far as sharing information and trying to help educate people. I was very, very I was very well versed in the law while I was locked up, and I studied the law every day. That was like my thing. I did a lot of research, had a lot of guys that studied with me, and we had kind of like our own little legal team, and I used to just immerse myself in the law and different things as far as the Constitution, Bill of Rights, congressional acts, Declaration of Independence, just administrative proceedings, a lot of things that pertain to just legalese, jurisdiction, a bunch of different stuff. I used to read law all the time. I had a whole locker full of legal material, and even had some legal material outside my locker. That's how much I had. But guys used to like to argue with me about the law. They would come up to me, Big Herc, what do you know about this? And I would kind of explain to them certain things, and they, man, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna go over here and ask this guy, and then go right to the white guy. Now, mind you, the white guy would tell them the same thing I'm telling them, and they would take what he said and come back and be like, yeah, see, this white guy, he so-and-so just told me this is this and this. I said, that's the exact same thing I told you. Nah, man, you try to tell me, blah, 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 and, you didn't know what you were talking about, but he knows. And I used to shake my head like, wow, man, these guys are fucking clowns, man. They don't want to believe me. And then that same white guy, he would ask me questions, and we would go back and forth, Sometimes he would agree, sometimes he wouldn't agree. He always wanted to one-up me. He had a sense of like, I'm smarter than you, and walked around with an air of arrogance, and because he, had a certain demeanor about himself, everybody thought this guy was so smart, blah, 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 blah. But he used to want to borrow my legal books and some of my legal reading materials, and then he would quote things out of my materials that I researched, and it was just mind-boggling. So what I did was I wrote several books in prison. I wrote you know, books on like legal reference books. I wrote a couple of other just novels, and wrote a book about business, doing trust and stuff, and setting up a trust, and different things. But the legal books were really my babies, and I wrote two of them. But when I wrote these legal books, what I did was I wrote them under a different name. I made up a name that sounded white, and it had a little ring to it, and I wrote the books, and it's basically, it was like an informational type of manual, couple maybe over a little over 100 some pages, just with different case law, different things explaining like your basic rights, court proceedings, administrative process, jurisdiction, definitions, just a bunch of stuff I studied over 8 years that I put together into just like a study guide, like a quick fix manual study guide about the law and certain things that a person should know. So I came up with the name. I told my cellmate at the time, and he laughed. He sounded like a white guy, the name. Came up with a cover, to make the book look real. And what I did was, and like I said, I wrote two of these. I sent the first one I did. I was excited, man. I just had so much information I wanted to put together. So I sent the book out to a friend, had them print the book up with the cover, with the name, and send it back. And they sent the book back to me, and I got it in the mail, and I showed it to the white guy, the one everybody looked up to, the one everybody thought was the man, and I had a couple copies, so I showed it to a couple black guys too. That used to read the law, and a few other individuals. And the white guy, he looked at the book. He's like, "Yeah, man, this guy who wrote this book, he's very smart. See what he said? See what you were saying right here, Herc? This guy is saying it right here. But he's saying blah 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 blah. See, the way you said it, you said this, but this guy, he knows. Look how he broke it down. Blah 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 blah. Right?" And I'm just looking at him. Yeah, this guy, yeah, he's so smart. Herc, he just, oh my God, and then he's going on and on about the author and giving him all type of praise. And then the black guy showed the book too. He's like, "Man, see, this is the stuff, man. This guy got heat, man. I'm telling you, he knows what's up, man. Where'd you get it? Where'd you get this book from, man? Where'd you order it?" I said, "Man, my friend on the street, man, they're tied into like these different book clubs, and they found the book for me online and sent it to me. Man, can I order the book?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, you can order the book, man. Let me get the information and to send out to this person, and I'll have them send you, to take care of me. I'll have them send you the book in." So I sold a few books right there at the institution of this guy, this pseudo named Arthur, and I can't remember how many I sold. I sold quite a few, and me and my cellie just used to laugh, man, and my other friends, because they knew I wrote the book, and it was just funny, man, how people will accept information from certain sources. And I wrote a part two. The part two, I had even more information because, like I said, I had a lot of stuff I had read. My mind used to be just, overflowing with different things that I've come across as far as information and just case sightings and a bunch of stuff, man, dealing with federal and state and jurisdiction and just your rights and a bunch of stuff. And so the book two, I came up, did the same thing, used a pseudonym for the author, and came up with a cover, sent the book out. And this one's a little bit bigger. I think maybe 130 pages, 140, something like that. And when I got the book, I passed it around to a couple people, And you know, jail, everybody shares the same book. They would pass it around, pass it around. Oh man, damn, Big Herc, this guy, man, he's sharp. You know, the white guys, man, this guy's sharp, man. See this right here? And he would verbatim, he's repeating what I told him months ago, but he just read in this book. And my partner that was right there with me when I wrote the book, one of my friends, he's looking at me, I'm looking at him, man, and I'm just shaking my head like, man, this is a black guy, white guy game, man. This is what I'm talking about. Looking at me, big black guy, soft-spoken, articulate, the information does not come out right. It does not disseminate onto the receiver because of my appearance. They can't accept that I know this stuff. But coming from this guy who sounds like he's white, who's written this book, is perfectly acceptable. The same thing with the black guys. Oh man, this dude right here, man, shit, you know, he's talking about the right thing right here, man. This guy, man, you know, I wish I would have had this man years ago. And I'm looking, man, wow. You know, and it took everything for me to not let ego come into play and say, you know what, I wrote this book. Because then they wouldn't have believed it anyways. Because, like I said, oh man, now you're trying to, you know, take credit for something you didn't do. They wouldn't have believed it. You know, it would have been just too much for them to accept. But this is a black guy, white guy game, man. This is a game you got to learn playing life. This is a game you're going to experience in the office. You're going to experience in sports. You're going to experience just in life in general, man, you know. And a lot of people will underestimate you or look past you because of it. But you know, once you know the type of people you're dealing with, it will be easier for you to accept and for you to move on and for you to now monetize that that element. You know, you gotta learn to play around it. But this is something I experienced, and it wasn't until, like I said, the last probably couple years I was in prison that I realized the black guy, white guy game and how powerful it was. And if had I used that knowledge earlier, I probably could have made quite a bit of money putting together information under this pseudo white guy's name, and you know, repackaging it and using it to my benefit, you know, rather than creating confrontation because people didn't want to believe I knew what I knew. And that wasn't like I was trying to show off with the knowledge. I was just trying to share a lot of times the knowledge. I was excited, you know, trying to educate people on certain things. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, they didn't really want to hear the truth. Not from me, but from the pseudo-name author. They were very receptive. They embraced him. You know, he was the truth, man. And boy, I tell you, that book, man, I still look at it today sometimes, and when I read through it, and, you know, I'm not, and like I said, this is information, it was just information compiled. It wasn't like I was claiming originality of any of the case law in there, and, you know, the definition. This is stuff that, you know, it's in a bunch of different places, and I just put it all together in one, like a study manual, and, you know, these guys would just go crazy over it, man. And my cellie would laugh, I would laugh, man, and be like, wow, man. And, you know, but on the business side of things, this is something you're going to be dealing with in society, you know, whether it's you running your own business and people thinking you're too big for your britches because you're getting money, or you're trying to be successful and people don't want to accept your success. They want somebody else to you know, to say, hey, give them credit for what you've accomplished. Just be aware of the black guy, white guy game. The black guy, white guy game is real. See, prison is the micro of the macro. See, it's a small, it's like a small culture, a small community. You know, everything that happens in prison happens on a larger scale in society, and you can learn a lot if you're paying attention. If you're not caught up, and I wasn't caught up. I wasn't and I wasn't immersed into the prison culture. I was always like trying to look over everything to see, have an overstanding, not an understanding. Understanding, you just see what's going on in front of you. Overstanding, you see things before they actually occur, and you see them in slow motion, like the Matrix, black guy, white guy game. I stay lacing you guys up, man. That's why I tell you, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe, man. Share this shit, man, because you won't get it from anybody else. You know, whether it's motivation, whether it's making life-changing decisions. You know, I'm telling you stuff that you can take to your grave with you, man, that you can teach your kids. And when they get into certain situations, they're going to be able to excel because I've already been there. I've been there. When I do things now, you don't know who made it, who did it. It ain't me. You know what I mean? You ain't got to worry about getting mad because I actually did what it is that you guys are looking at. No, man, this other dude did it. I'm just using it right now. That's all. Black guy, white guy game. Stay laced up, man. Big Herc 916, man. I'm gonna keep it raw and real.